anything worth anything, like to drive a car, did I start driving a car without having somebody sit next to me? Right? Like
No.
I had to write a test, but that was a learner's, and then I had to learn with somebody next to me. I went through driver's education. I had somebody walk me through, sit next to me, hold my hand, go through those steps and processes. Any professional athlete, same deal. You got coaches, you got people guiding you through, you got people holding your hand, you got people kicking your butt, you got
Yeah.
people holding you
Accountability.
accountable, you got people over your shoulder. You got like that's how you learn to become the best at the best. Anybody who's best in their respective fields, they have mentors, they have people that guided them to that. Do you think that Russell Brunson didn't have a mentor? He was taught by the mentor of mentors who Zach actually worked with.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, he had a mentor. All the guys that you look at today that were that are the top of the top and they're at the top of the food chain, they didn't get there without being guided. They didn't get there without having somebody hold their hand. They didn't get there without somebody telling them, guess what? That's not going to, hey, listen, learn from my mistakes. Learn from me and my mistakes. You can collapse time frames. Man, the moment that I learned about that is that you could collapse time frames by actually learning from someone else's mistakes, who's gone ahead of you, who's gone through the journey, who's gone through all the hard stuff. So what are the secrets? How do some of the most successful entrepreneurs find the freedom that we all got into business for in the first place? How did they find the time, energy, and resources to launch and scale strong? And how do entrepreneurs like us align our time, money, and energy in a way that will allow us to reach what we set out to achieve? These are the key questions, and this community will give you the answers. Welcome to the Prosperity Movement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Prosperity U podcast. This is a great place where the leaders of the Prosperity Movement, we like to come together and share bits of wisdom and insight based on what we've been seeing, both from a trading standpoint. Sometimes we get really heavy on the topic of trading. Sometimes it's more about business, and sometimes it's about success in general or prosperity in general. And so today is actually going to be more of a generalized topic, sort of. Okay, we're going to talk about risk. And now, a lot of times when people think about risk, they're thinking about trading with us, right? Because a lot of folks in our community, obviously, they do a lot of trading. Forex trading, binary options trading. And with trading, of course, everyone thinks about what's the risk, what's the risk, what's the risk. So I want to talk about that a little bit. And I also want to talk about the other side of the traditional form of risk, which is the risk of inaction and what that looks like, right? So I think the three of us have a very unique perspective on this compared to most folks out there. So I think it's going to be a really fun topic to talk about. And I think Travis, I've heard you talk about this quite a bit, actually. So to you, Travis, what are things in life that require someone to take a risk?
I think everything has an innate risk with it. It's kind of, I'm going to start with using a different word here, actually. And this is something that I heard that, although simple and intuitive, and you think you should just know it, I heard it and I was like, oh, like that's good. And it's basically is that everything is hard. Okay. Being out of shape and unhealthy or whatever, that's hard. So is going to the gym. You get to choose your hard, right? Mm-hmm. What's another one? Learning a new skill set like trading and learning how to be an investor and learning how to invest not just money, but your time and energy towards things that matter. That's hard, if you will. But what's harder for me is going to the job. I'm not a very good employee, I promise. And so that to me is way more difficult than anything else that I've done, right? And so the hard is something that you get to choose, because it seems like most things in life it's two sides of a coin. You kind of get to choose which side you want to be on. Obviously, there's nuances here. I'm generalizing it. But it's the same thing with risk, is that if I were to go and stay at the job that I had, even though it was pretty well paying back then, the risk that I take is never being able to be at a position where I can actually comfortably retire, or the risk I take is not being able to do the things that I want to in my youth, right? So that I can eventually retire in my older age. The risks that you take on going to the stable jobs or something, to me, is a higher risk than going through and just investing your time, your money, and your energy into other things that can compound on themselves over the long haul, right? And so risk is not just the risk of losing out on maybe money, but the risk of losing out on quality of life in general, right? I don't have to have a million bajillion dollars for me to be satisfied and have my bills paid and my vacations paid for and stuff, right? And so I feel like going just to the job scenario, the W-2 income, the stable stuff that, as we saw in 2020, isn't actually all that stable, is it? Right? So that to me is a higher risk. And I think the best way that I painted that picture for somebody is when I was talking to my dad, and I told him, I said, I would rather risk everything working towards the better quality of life now and ongoing with these other things like trading and entrepreneurship than to risk working in the job for 40 years, knowing that the statistics are against me, that the idea of retirement is not going to happen. That's a bigger risk, in my opinion, but I'd rather put it all in this avenue, having tried, and maybe at some point saying, well, it didn't work out how I wanted it to, rather than going and working and then end up being
modest.
Reading. What do you mean?
I appreciate your modesty. You're doing amazing, bro. Like,
Yeah. You are.
But I hear what you're saying, and I think that's huge because, again, taking a look at understanding what's happening in the world right now in regards to inflation, and then how things are working with hourly wages and salaries and stuff like that, it's just not adding up to the standard of living that people have built up for themselves over the years. You know, like there's a certain level, like it's just not cutting it now. Like, I think the part that really, you know, in 2017, I lost my dream job, and I ended up going to work in the school system. And by the way, like, teachers, unsung heroes, incredible the amounts of stress that they deal with and what they're doing. But like, it's crazy to me to think that right now teachers are mostly raising our kids. Now, why is that happening? Why is that happening? And why do we have so many broken homes? Well, because mom and dad are working 9 to 5 jobs. In the old days, we had a nurturer at home. There was a nurturer at home, and then a hunter-gatherer that was going out, and, like you said, pensions that would sustain until they kick the bucket. It just doesn't, nothing adds up anymore. People on average are not holding jobs for 20 to 30 years to be able to build that up.
Not at all.
You know, average turnover is like, what is it, year, 2, 3 years before someone decides to, you know, move on to something different. There's no consistency. It's like the only thing that's become really consistent is the inconsistency. And so the only thing you have control over in the inconsistencies of the world right now is building your own consistencies.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
On a positive note, with the going job to job and stuff, like the idea of staying with somebody long enough to get your retirement package, which by and large doesn't even exist anymore, was in order to get people to stay and not have to have the cost of replacement for employees and the loyalty, if you will. And then if they're staying that long, then your pay raises can be smaller and they're still going to be there, right? Feed them enough and entertain them enough to not ask questions, right? But on a positive note here nowadays is, since we don't have those really the long-term incentives anymore, it's actually really advantageous for people to kind of skip around one job to another, because you can negotiate your value, your skill set a little bit more than you could just at one job. The only thing though is that you can only negotiate it so much. You know, your how do you put it, Brian? That your income is directly proportional to the amount of impact or value or influence that you can provide to the market. And when you're working a job, typically you're only providing value for a business. So it's one. Your volume is one, and so you don't have very much buying power there. And so then they tell you, well, because of all these things, you got to live on 40% of your paycheck, save for 40 years, and then retire on 40% of what you used to live on. Like the 40-40-40 rule got really big. But that's not possible, because as we see, you guys can look this up right now, the average American, like 65% of them don't even have $1,000 in a savings account, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, what are you saving? Well, you can't, because inflation has eaten up the entirety of your bill and it's not keeping up. Like housing just itself has gone up since the 70s, like 700 something percent. Income has gone up by maybe 50% or so.
Yeah.
So it's not keeping pace. And this is a trend that's continuing to happen. So although you can have more, on the positive side, you have more influence on your income by jumping from one job to another and going where they pay the highest, you're still capped at kind of just enough to make you want to stay there, right?
And I think overall, at least from what we've seen over the years, I think people are understanding that more and more. They're understanding more and more that the traditional, job model and stuff is kind of, it's just not going to cut it long term, especially, heaven forbid, you want to have an inheritance for your children. It's not feasible. Like you're not even going to retire, much less that. And I think most people understand that, which is why there's so many people seeking for other opportunities, right? I mean, there's top Google searches are always like, make money online, make money from home, those kinds of things, because people are like, gotta do something. What can I do? What are the solutions out there? And we've been a part of some of those solutions in the past. When I started my entrepreneur journey, it was in affiliate marketing, and I did really well there, right? We've done high ticket closing. We've done marketing agencies, which Travis, the statistics on that is really funny. There's this big marketing agency boom where there's anyone that's ever marketed something once in their life and read a book, they're like, I'm an agency, I know what I'm doing. And then there was more marketers than there was businesses. And it created this really weird dynamic in the economy. But
I'm
anyways,
curious, Zach, actually, on that topic,
yeah.
like in the marketing space, and obviously trading, they say that the average success rate is about 1 to 3%. Any given time, I'm sure it fluctuates, but like, what would you say the marketing? Like, do you have the numbers or have an understanding of that? Is it
It's
roughly the
actually about the
same,
same.
or
It's the
is it
same,
roughly
yeah.
the same?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so 1 to 3% of marketers are actually good at what they do. Like they can actually provide a result for people.
Right, the result, because at least, a few years ago when I was trying to warn people of, because you get attracted to those courses online, like they buy my course, learn how to be a marketer, right? What they don't realize is that the market is extremely saturated. There's about roughly 31-ish million small and medium-sized businesses, which you have to focus there, because I promise you, first-time marketer, you're not getting the big businesses, right? You're going to small mom and pops, right? There's like 30-something million worth of those kinds of businesses. A lot of them already have a marketer and happy with their results. And then of the people who are learning how to be a marketer and marketing their own marketing services, there's closer to 100 million. There's more marketers than there are businesses to market for. And so it's an extremely saturated market. And unless you're, a weird brainiac like Zach is and can figure it out and squeezle your way in and do better than everyone else, I mean, compete. If you can't compete better than these other people, the odds of survival are slim to none. And so at first, back in maybe 2017 or so, when it kind of got big for like ClickFunnels and come be a marketer, that was a prime time to get in, but you're, 5-6 years too late. And it's not impossible, but the amount of competition, time, money, and energy you have to invest into it is monumental. And so that's what I tell people is you can go drop shipping, you can be a marketer or Amazon, OFA or whatever that is. Amazon businesses and stuff. You can do all those things. You could do well with it. It's just extremely small chance that it would actually happen because of the competition and saturation.
Yeah.
So to bring it up a little bit here and go into like the layers of that, and then to bring it back down into the trading and the layers to that, what makes the differences is like, again, like there's a certain understanding that there are simplicities that you have to break these things down in simple orders, but then there's also the complexities at the fact that, like, well, look, I mean, what do we have right now? We have about $50,000 in expenses a month.
Yeah.
If people are unaware of that. But like marketing and sales, to simplify it, it's 3 simple steps. Okay. Number 1, clarity of message. Number 2, compelling offer that inspires audience to action. Number 3, the most important one that most organizations miss the mark on, and like you're saying in that oversaturation, is over delivering on both experience and expectation. And that's why those numbers get offset, and like that's where you really set the differences between who can make it and who's going to make it and who's going to do very well and who's not going to do well. And it really comes down to the bigger the problem, the bigger the payoff, the bigger the solution, the bigger the salary. So the solution is providing those the results. Now, the other thing is that when you're dealing and growing these businesses, if you will, there's systems and processes and understanding that there's a front end, there's a middle end, and there's a back end.
Yes.
Right. And there's so many of these moving parts. And in order for you to scale a business, in order for you to grow a business, in order for you to do that, you need to be able to have all of these other people and leadership and so many other layers of things that people don't think of. So now let's bring it back to trading. Now let's talk about, the blueprint that we have and why that's so important.
Well,
Why?
before we
Yeah.
do, like if we're talking about that fulfillment system, right? There's people out there, and this is both in any make money online type space. Oftentimes the name of the game is who's the better marketer. That's it. It's not who has the best actual thing that's actually going to
That's
deliver
part of the
results.
problem. That's part of
Right.
the problem.
100%. And so because of that, sometimes people, they get burned because they fall for the marketing and the sales, and then they're like, well, shoot, this isn't working for me. And there's no form of support. There's nothing to help them and hold their hand and get them through the hard times, because none of these things are easy. If it was easy, everyone would be great at these things, right? Trading is no different. Who's the better marketer when it comes to a trading platform? That's kind of the name of the game in the space, which is why we don't sell a low ticket item, right? We don't play that game, because the game that they'll play is they'll be like, no. Hey, come on in, $7, learn my strategy, $7 or $500, learn my strategy. We don't do that game, because guess what? If we just sold our information in the strategy, only 3% of the people we sold would have success. And that's because it's not enough. It's literally not enough for 97% of the population. So we decided.
Well, that's just like going on YouTube. That's basically just like going on YouTube, right? And collecting videos and going through YouTube and expecting that to work, when anything worth anything, like to drive a car. Did I start driving a car without having somebody sit next to me? Right? Like
No.
I had to write a test, but that was a learner's, and then I had to learn with somebody next to me. I went through driver's education. I had somebody walk me through, sit next to me, hold my hand, go through those steps and processes. Any professional athlete, same deal. You got coaches, you got people guiding you through, you got people holding your hand, you got people kicking your butt, you got people holding you accountable, you got people over your shoulder. You've got, like, that's how you learn to become the best at the best. Anybody who's best in their respective fields, they have mentors. They have people that guided them to that. Do you think that Russell Brunson didn't have a mentor? He was taught by the mentor of mentors, who Zach actually worked with. Tony Robbins, he had a mentor. All the guys that you look at today that are the top of the top, and they're at the top of the food chain, they didn't get there without being guided. They didn't get there without having somebody hold their hand. They didn't get there without somebody telling them, guess what? That's not going to, hey, listen, learn from my mistakes. Learn from me and my mistakes. You can collapse time frames. Man, the moment that I learned about that is that you could collapse time frames by actually learning from someone else's mistakes, who's gone ahead of you, who's gone through the journey, who's gone through all the hard stuff. Like, I mean, I remember, like, you created, when we met Justin Singh, and that dude, when we first met him, he was doing $40,000 trades a day, $100,000 trades a day. By the time we were hanging out with him for just a few more months, got to a point where companies are trusting him with taking trades on their behalf. $2.5 million trade day. Zach, you put together a program for him called the 100K a day asset formula.
Mm-hmm.
And that was powerful. But then when you look at the charts of what that looked like then to what it looks like now, you completely stripped it down and simplified the crap out of it.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's about that deliverable. And what we noticed with that first package, the asset formula, which does work, right? But it was so complex that very few people were actually getting a result from it. Not because it didn't work, but because it was really hard for people to execute on it, right? And that's where we were like, okay, we got to figure out how do we strip this down? How do we simplify this and still get people a result, or even get more people a result? And literally the statistics, we kept track of it the whole time. It was like we went from 2% of our following having success to 14% when we decided to teach it ourselves. Okay. And then it went from 14% to 50% as soon as we created our own strategy, which was a very, very, very simple version of it. And then when we added videos and accountability, it slowly increased from like 50 to 70 to 78 to 85, all the way up to where we are today, which is on average 92%.
And we've hit 97 a few times, not counting all the people that
Yeah.
don't follow the system that are being successful. I mean, not that they do follow the system, but they're not submitting anymore. They don't need to. They don't need to. Like, that's the interesting part about our lifetime focus, is that you don't, when you're executing properly, you don't need the whole lifetime. But
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, because you grow out of needing the support. But anywhere else, there's no such thing as support. You're left in the desert without a water bottle, in the middle of the desert alone, with, videos that you get told, and you come and you ask questions. Like, I'll never forget this. We were on calls. Like, it just, like, I talk about this a lot on a lot of my calls, because I know that there's a lot of people that have dealt with this in other organizations. Hundreds of educators, hundreds of different strategies, and that's part of the problem, is the squirrel syndrome, that have that, oh, this stopped working, and so I'm going to move on to something else. Well, they weren't consistent enough to just follow through. It's probably not that the strategy doesn't work. It probably does. They're just not being guided through this, right?
Mm.
And then when they ask questions, the educators are saying stuff like, oh, did you watch the videos? Well, yeah. Well, go watch the videos again. Your mindset is off. But I asked you a question about this. Why can't we just answer that? Like,
Yeah.
straightforward, And so now, like, getting on actual group calls on a week-to-week basis, where you're actually able to ask questions, be engaging, also submit on a daily basis your trading sessions, to get someone to review it, to look over it, to show you and to walk you through. Like, that's,
And even one-on-one calls, right? We do a ton of those. We'll get on one-on-one with someone if they're struggling pretty bad. We'll be like, look, let's sit down. Let's go through this. Let's go through some of your videos. Let's talk about decisions that are being made and fix it.
And it gets me excited, because
That's
I can see what you're doing in phase 2 now there too, Zach, and also what Dave is bringing to the picture. Like, even today, someone had a question in the group about one thing, and all of a sudden Dave is pumping out these like 12-second, 25-second, 30-second videos of step by step into this group chat, and it was just so incredibly powerful. You can see all these light bulbs going off, and I was like, man, I'm gonna just take all those videos and just put them into one. It turned out to be like 7, or like, just it was a little over 7 minutes worth of content.
Yeah.
And but just that kind of clarity, like, we're constantly evolving. That's what I love to see in the deliverable thing over here, is that when people have questions, they get filled. When people need answers, they get the answers they're looking to receive. And when we look at our deliverable, that's the thing that we've been doing, and it's a constant thing, is that we're always looking to get better. And when we wouldn't be who we are today if it wasn't for the community guiding us through their, like, when we see people struggling, the first thing we look to is, oh, well, solution. What's the solution? How do we bring that to life? And then we package it, and then we put it, and that's how all of these programs just continue to evolve and get better. So it's super, super exciting. And that's, I think, again, the thing that separates any good company. I don't care what kind of company you're running, but, educational platforms, you need to listen to the people that are going through your education. You need to listen to there are people in the community that have learning disabilities. You need to listen to that. Like, how do you fill those gaps?
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually just talking to a gentleman who's been with us since before we started trading. He was with us with our marketing, and we helped him with some of his business ideas, and he's got a learning disability. He openly talks about it. And I was just talking to him today about some of the holes and some of the things that he found that he struggled with our education, like literally just getting feedback from him. And this guy is so freaking prepared. He's like, I've got a whole Word doc. I'm like, bring it. Let's look at it. It was this nice, well-organized thing of like this was confusing. I need help here. And I'm like, all right, we got some work to do. Right. But that's what we do. And we've done that for 2 years to get it where it is today. We're just going to keep doing that. And this thing just continues to hone in and help more and more people. And so when we're talking about like the original topic of quote unquote risk, right? Some people look at online opportunities as a ginormous risk, which in a way, monetarily, potentially you could look at it like that. The way we like to look at monetary things, though, is always with the lens of investment, right? Every investment has potential risk, but so does not investing, right? So
Well, this is where you have
not-
good debt. This is where you have good debt and you have bad debt. Like how would you before we get into that, why don't you explain the difference between good debt and bad debt?
Yeah, I mean, good debt can actually help you in a lot of ways. You can leverage good debt for lowering your taxes, which can, at the end of the day, actually save you money, a lot of money, by the
And
way.
in some, depending on what your scenario is, it can get you money back.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Good debt also will help you with finding other pieces of good debt. For example, okay, I mean the obvious one for smart good debt would be like getting a house at a good price. Don't buy a house right now, okay? I'm saying when the market is low, that's when you would probably want to invest into a house because guess what? The market goes up. You paid X amount of dollars for this house through debt, right? Guess what? Now it's worth this much. You could sell it. You make a profit right there,
That's an
right?
area where we look forward to in phase 3, having more
Yeah.
professionals come in to help us with that. Because that's an area that I know that we all want to improve upon, like us, on the panelists here
Yeah.
today. But obviously there's depreciating assets and there's appreciating assets. So you need to understand the difference between appreciating and depreciating assets.
Yeah.
I like to see any other organization guide people through to, for example, when you invest with us, first of all, we've made it attainable for the average Joe and Jane to get access to 6, 7, and 8-figure earners. So yes, there is a tuition. It is a fixed tuition. And you can get on payment plans, whether you go through, some people go through their own banking, some people have it liquid. It's not really a huge investment. It is something where a lot of people can come up with it liquid, no problem. But we also have our tuition finance partners that you can go through, and it makes it so that you can basically invest roughly what it costs to go out on a hot date once a month. And not going to McDonald's, but we're talking dinner and a movie. Yes, you're going to get wine.
Depends on your hot date. I went on a date with my wife recently. That cost me an arm and a leg.
Oh, did it?
Depends on the hot date.
Did it cost you, or was it a good investment, Travis?
Oh,
was it a good investment
Wonderful,
into your
wonderful
relationship?
investment.
Was it a
Well,
good investment into Lisa? I'm pretty sure that I saw the pictures and the way she talked about you, your forever man. That seemed like a really good investment.
yes.
It was a good investment.
Right?
That's great.
So I'm just saying. So, but at the same time, other organizations, are you able to invest in other places and have it positioned properly to where this becomes an actual write-off for you? To where, again, you're going to lower your taxes. And in some cases, depending on your scenario, and this is what we can help guide you through, you get money back when it comes to your tax season. Because if you are an employee and you now have a side scenario where we help you with a W-2 form and we go through all the proper movements, now that becomes not only a tax write-off, but a tax return. So
Yeah.
you're investing to get better. You're being surrounded by people. You're the direct reflection of 5 people you spend most time with. Your bank account is direct reflection of 5 people you spend most time with. You're spending more time with people who are aware of these things, that they understand these moving parts, and that they're teaching you these moving parts as you go. You're having your hand held throughout that process. You're watching rich flicks instead of Netflix, right?
Nice.
So genuinely, that's what you're investing into with the content that you jump into over here. Is you're investing into rich flicks. You're learning skill sets that are going to help you increase your impact and income. And that is where people should be putting their time, money, and energy in any high level, like guys like the Tony Robbins, the Russell Brunsons, who else would you throw on the docket of high level, impact in world shakers? And
I mean, Joe
Kiyosaki.
Vitale. What was that?
Robert Kiyosaki's pretty big when it comes to
Robert
Kiyosaki and
Kiyosaki, Rich
being
Dad,
as
Poor
as
Dad.
he.
Dave
Well, and
Ramsey.
that's the other thing. Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's a really great book. Awesome. Tells you a lot about the what. Tells you a lot about the what. Tells you a lot about the what to do, what to do, what to do, what to do, what to do. But when it comes to the how do you feel after reading that book?
Lost.
Ah,
What do
ah.
I do first?
Over here, let's just label it for what it is. You got Rich Dad, Poor Dad with the how holding your hand, the who and the how. Because here's the other thing. A lot of people go to college and university. 23% of people actually, make it where they actually, graduated and they're actually applying it in the marketplace. I mean, I've got family that went to school, computer engineer. Finally, and this has been a tough one. I've been just like, I love my brother, but I've been witnessing his whole journey, and he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college and university. Small percentage of people to actually become a computer engineer. Couldn't break into it. Ended up at a Safeway on a Safeway salary, grocery store, and then, went back to school to become a CPA. Broke into that, started getting jobs, got let go. I don't know how many times. He's finally got another full-time job coming up, but he's got so much that he's got to catch up on. A lot of people don't even actually apply it. And here's the interesting thing. You go to college or university, you spend all that money, and you are being taught, let's say you go to school for business. Most of the people that are at college campuses, are they actually they're teaching you business, but are they actually in business?
Yeah.
And then you want support and you want help. Can you go to the professor or the person who's teaching you, or do you have to now pay for a tutor?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. That's a very, very interesting points, man. I mean, because I went to college for about 2 weeks before I dropped out. And I was just I struggled
You
to
guys are getting
understand.
advice from a college dropout.
Yeah.
Like there's a trend. I don't know what the statistic is, but it seems like there's a trend that some of the most influential and successful people are either college and or high school dropouts, right? Like the education system, let's just put it at this. At face value, it seems like the education system is not a predictor of success, right? But then when you dive deep into it, then you realize, the Rockefellers built out and basically industrialized the education system with, I loosely quote, so we can create better employees, not success, not the white picket dream fence like the Americans thought they wanted or whatever, to make employees. And then they created all these things like pensions, and they found the 401k loophole bullcrap. And then they're just constantly trying to feed people to produce more workers. If you're listening right now, if you just heard that, you've probably heard it somewhere else too, I imagine. And it's true, but you're also one of those type of people that are trying to break out of that. Right? Like you identified a problem. This is not a long-term solution. I feel like I'm at risk of having to do this same thing forever.
Bring it back to the risk.
Right, back to bring this home, guys. And so if you're listening to this, you're either a part of Prosperity Movement now or potentially doing it with us. But here's one thing that I want to say very genuinely, okay? I want to welcome you in here, but if you find something else and that feels more comfortable, whatever, do something. Don't not do anything. That's the biggest risk ever you can take, not do anything different.
Inaction is like indecision is a decision. Inaction is an action. It's part of, like
You're actively doing nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like you decide to go to the gym or not. Like,
yeah.
Which one's
100%.
more proactive for you? Which one is going to be better for your life?
And what I find interesting too is like how people are they put so much emphasis on like safety or comfortable investing, that used to be they were so willing to do a job, and the reason was because of job security, which, like Travis said, the COVID quickly proved that is not true at all.
Does that exist?
3 strikes you're out or whatever. Heaven forbid, you're a human, makes mistakes. There's not really a job security thing. The other thing that blows my mind though is that people are so willing to exchange dollars for hours. It blows my mind. The more it does not take a lot of studying for you to realize how important and how valuable and rare your time is, and yet we're willing to exchange it for $35 an hour or less.
Are you
For some
kidding me?
folks.
Most people are sitting, like a lot of people in today's day and age are sitting between the $17, $25, like
Yeah.
The highest I
$35
ever got paid was $12.50
Oh,
yeah,
an hour. That was the
yeah,
highest I've ever been paid.
yeah,
well,
Per hour, that is, per hour.
when I was
yeah. My
Almost
when I
past
was
decade.
in that
without a degree, I think you're lucky to get between $20 to $25, at least here in Canada.
Even
And it
with it,
really
my
it was
a
it
normal
wasn't
nine
that.
to five, or like typically your average is 1750. It's like,
yeah, sorry, my bad. I was when I was an engineer, I asked for raises a lot.
yeah, but you were also an engineer. Oh, which is interesting because you didn't go to school, but you brought a ton of value, didn't you? Because you were bringing more value than the guys that went to school to be able to get into those positions.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
like you were getting paid multiple six figures for your position because of the way that you were a solutionary. You
Yeah.
came over a lot of problems and you helped that company do really well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But even
Was
that, even if I was making 35 an hour, right? Or even if you're making 17 to 25 an hour, it doesn't matter. None of that is worth your time. It's not a good value on your time, is what I should say. Right? Like it's kind of a ridiculous thing to exchange dollars
I
for
mean,
hours.
because of the position that we're in today, anyways, for a lot of people, they might feel differently. They'd be like, "Are you kidding me? I'd do anything for that," But
yeah,
yeah, like I
isn't
like
it
what you're
Interesting.
doing because you're trying to get people to expand their minds a little bit
Yeah.
as the listeners.
You
Like
gotta
you can
you know,
do,
think a little bit.
I'm so far removed from the reality of the hourly wage. I just realized this a few days ago. I was talking to somebody and he was like, "Yeah, I make about $50 an hour." And I was like, "Oh, wow, you must make a lot of money then." Because in my mind, it's like 12.50 was like enough to pay bills. And so I'm just thinking like that's so much, it's four times as much. And so it has to be a lot of money kind of thing. And he goes, and I did the math and I was like, "Oh, that's barely six figures." Barely. And that's on a 40-hour work week. You take taxes into consideration. If you're working for an hour, you're paying taxes. Just tell you that much. So take taxes into consideration. It's not even a six-figure income. Far from.
well,
Right? And
and
so
and if it
50,
is a
$50
six
an hour.
figure,
We're talking about $35 an hour being a big number, and we go to 50 and stuff. It's like those are kind of just, the idea behind exchanging time for money. Because here's what we got to get this straight. Everybody inputs time to make money. Okay. The
Yes.
difference between going to a job and then working is that you're guaranteed that if you spend this time, then this is how much money you make. Right. And so you are inevitably and directly capping the amount of money that you can make, no matter how much time is involved. Right. Whereas in trading, you're not capping yourself on a volumetric, measurement. It is, I'm trading my time, but the better my skill is, the more efficient I am with that time, or effective that I am with that time, then the higher my payout. And technically, the ceiling is there's no cap. Theoretically, obviously, we all know there's no multi-quadrillion dollar traders out there. There's some limit that
well, you've got your own personal limits based on what your skill set is, okay?
It's
Like,
based.
and that's something that can grow and that you can develop. But let's
It's
talk
not
about
even.
this more. Like, even from a tax standpoint, like, let's say you are making $100,000 a year, whether it's on a salary or as an employee or what have you, you're paying at least, like in Canada here, it is going to be at least 20 to 30% taxed. Okay. So immediately, if that's happening, like, that's just not fun. Like, I don't care who you are, but it's like, even with trading, let's bring that back to trading. If you're not positioned properly as a trader, and this doesn't get talked about a lot, but if you are a sole proprietor as a trader and you have not positioned yourself properly, you are automatically paying capital gains on anything you gain. So let's say you pull out $10,000, you're giving the government 3,000.
Yeah,
Plain
yeah.
and simply. That's what's happening. Now, position yourself properly depending on your state and or province. This is important because every state and province has different moving parts. Like where I'm at, it's 11% for the structures that I put in place. That's as low as we can go over here. There's some that go as low as 7%. I've got to find
Zach
out
doesn't
what
pay his
provinces.
taxes. Zach doesn't pay taxes. He's
Hey,
illegal. Just throwing some humor in here a little bit. We gotta liven this up.
yeah, no, I
Zach's
mean,
evading his taxes. You guys should call the cops on him.
Yeah.
what is
Don't do that.
happening?
Don't do that.
Are you
Just
talking about
kidding.
Zach?
Yeah,
I
I'm just
just
kidding.
I have a
Zach's
million
got.
I have a million dependents, so it feels like I never have to pay taxes.
Well, that's because you have how many kids?
I have five kids.
And did
dependence.
you know? And here's the thing that most people don't know, but you can literally pay. I think in most states, in most provinces, you'd have to double check with your CPA. Don't take this at my face value, but you can pay each one of your children $15,000 a year.
Yep.
That's a write-off. Okay. And that's not taxed. All right. So anything over that now becomes taxable, but $15,000 a year for each one of your dependents. Like you said,
Yeah.
that's why he barely pays.
So
Exactly. You got 6 kids.
right. It plays a big part. Um,
Yeah.
so I do wanna kind of revisit a little bit on the hourly pay thing. Just because I do think it's really important to understand that typically, and this is why I was the highest paying engineer in that company, highest paid, because I kept asking for raises because I understood the value of my time. The more you understand that value, the bigger your little financial blueprint. I would say that the only cap, even in trading, is mental. It's a comfort zone, and what numbers are you comfortable trading, right? That will determine kind of your result. And because the more you trade, obviously, the big, not the more in terms of frequency, but the more dollar amounts that you trade, the more potential payout you get, right? So if you're not comfortable with a massive number, you start small, right? And you get smaller returns. If you got someone like James Leone, he's trading big numbers, he's getting bigger returns. There's people that trade bigger numbers than James. Even some of our students trade bigger numbers than him. They get even bigger returns. And so the only real cap is in between your ears. And we'd like to actually, it's referred to frequently as your financial blueprint. And so find ways to increase your financial blueprint. There's some really cool things. Basically, you don't feel like you're worth it is kind of what it boils down to. The reason somebody can get paid $17 an hour and be totally happy with that is because they don't think they deserve more than that. And that's just baloney. I was at 35 an hour. I'm like, psh, pay me more. I deserve way more than this, and that's not coming from a place of greed. It's coming from a place of, I know what kind of value I'm bringing to this company.
Yeah.
I knew for a fact that they were charging $300 an hour for my work that I was doing. So I didn't feel bad at all asking for more raises.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember the story? I think I told both of you guys that I took the general manager from my company out for some drinks one night, and I told him, I said, "Hey, I know how much I'm making the company, and I want to have a $20,000 a month salary. This is not the job I turned down. That was a different job, okay? But this is back in Texas." And he kind of chuckled. He goes, "You do X, Y, Z, and I'll give you 20 grand a month." I said, "No, I want the salary because I know what I'm doing." And this is because the company was like embezzling money away from me. I knew that they were stealing, and so I was being very aggressive. I said, "I know my value. You're either going to pay me or I'm going to leave," kind of thing. And he goes, "Well, let me think about it." And I said, "Okay." And I called a buddy from a different company, and he came over for drinks with us. He finished his drink, paid for his stuff, and left. The next day, I showed up with my letter of termination, and there were several other disgruntled employees that we all left together, and that company basically went bankrupt because they don't take care of their employees, right? But know your value, know your value. And I went there and I was very stern. I can go anywhere. My value is so high, I can go anywhere. Pay me accordingly, I'll stay, and we'll both be happy, right? Now, that still doesn't leave the idea that I was still being capped there.
Yeah, exactly.
Back then, 20 grand a month seemed like a lot of money, but you're still being capped. It's a healthy income. Don't get me wrong. But why limit yourself? Right.
That's the thing.
That's exactly it.
You don't have to limit yourself. Like, we put these limits on ourselves because this is what we're so used to being told. What is normal, what's not normal, whatever the case is, right? But it's like we all get the same amount of hours in the day. But what makes the difference between Elon Musk and what makes the difference between guys like I don't know, I really like trying to remember
Cuban's one of my favorite characters right now.
Mark Cuban?
Mark Cuban. He got in trouble for cussing. I think it was at a sporting event or something. Like whatever. There's rules out there, and he goes, "I'm getting fined. I think it was like $5 grand or something because I said a bad word." And they're like, "Yeah, but it's okay because it's going to a charity." He goes, "So if I cuss again, I'm getting fined again, and it goes to this charity." And they're like, "Yeah." And so he's like, And then he cursed again. He's like, it's just FU money, like 5 grand, 10 grand, who cares, you know? Just thought it was funny. Mark Cuban's such a hilarious dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like sometimes people, the reason that they do cap themselves mentally is because they feel like if you make more money, you become a bad person. What we've found is that when you make more money, it's more like a magnifying glass on who you are. So you quickly identify where your weaknesses are. And as long as if you have a support system, like me, Brian, and Travis, we hold each other accountable like crazy, like next level. And if one of us starts getting out of line, the other two are like, "Hey, you guys straighten up." Um, and so it's good to have that because especially if you get a pretty drastic increase in income for a short period of time, you're gonna spend a little frivolously, right? I mean, you're gonna do a vacation that you don't necessarily need. You're gonna buy whatever.
My some of my business expense. I mean, they are legitimate business expenses,
Yeah.
but sometimes really unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, everyone goes through that, right? And so eventually you are like, wait a minute, no. What if my business expense was another form of investment, like an infinite banking system,
Mhm.
right? Or what if my business expense was now, I don't know, something else, like I'm paying my kids' salaries for a tax write-off, right?
That's a big
And
one that I
all of
implemented
a
this
sudden
year.
now you start to play around. Like I have an idea. Like I'm a big fan of Tesla. If you didn't know, I don't know. Just test drive one of their cars once and you'll fall in love. Okay. But anyway, so like one of my
That's a
ideas.
depreciating asset, just
I
so we're
know,
aware.
unless you lease it, now it's a perfect tax write-off, and it's fun.
Actually, that's true. My
Ah,
vehicle is leased, and
see,
my vehicle is leased, and that is a write off. Like, and
see,
my taxes came back just recently, and I'm just like, man, my CPAs are the best. Absolutely so good. I was like, man, that's crazy how much that you can literally like
yeah.
have like, and again at 11% taxes on you take a look at that, like
Or
it's
even,
you
yeah,
grow 6 7 figures and at 11% taxes versus 20 to 30% taxes, it's just
big difference.
it's a huge difference. And then offsetting all that stuff, there's so many different ways that like
Yeah,
I years ago had no idea. But and
right.
all of this information is literally sitting right in front of you. You can have it. It's there. It doesn't get talked about a lot because the rich are the ones that like I mean you'll learn about a lot of these things in Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff, but like the actual implementation does not get talked about a lot. A lot of people are not taking advantage of that. And there's so many moving parts. Like I love like how even like Travis, you've got this adventure company that you've built to basically go do the things that you love. And that's one of the things that we do here. We do more of the things we love with the people we love most, right? But all of Travis's gear, he goes snowboarding and all that kind of stuff. That's a write-off for his adventure company. Yeah, at some point there's probably going to be boats and all that kind of stuff. But the point is that's a write-off for his adventure company, and he utilizes that to help nurture relationships, develop relationships, and pull them into other things like we're doing, like prosperity movement and all that kind of stuff. It works as a funnel. So he's writing off all of his most favorite things that he gets to do. Everything that I
I just
love
bought
to do.
more gear today and a new snowboard and stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's getting towards the end of the year. I need to dump some money into my companies right now, so they're write-offs.
I'm going on a national tour. Sound like we don't have the dates or anything like that, but it sounds like it's being planned in January with this band called the Revival Band. You can check them out on YouTube. Revival Band. There's a song called "Forgive Me." Absolutely amazing. I love this band. Love these guys. And like I'm in production, so a lot of the stuff we do with prosperity movement, audio visual. So I have a recording studio. I love writing and recording music. All of my guitars, all of my recording gear, everything right off.
Right on.
And
Exactly.
there's two different types too, because there's I can't remember what I was talking to my CPA about yesterday, but there's the uh like certain things that you'll have over years. Like it's in a different tax bracket. I'll try to remember that for next time. I'll get more information on it. But certain ways that you file these things, and it's like I would
Yeah.
have never thought. Like
It-
even 3 years ago, half of the things that can
yeah.
be done just with simple organization, simple keeping track. What gets measured gets managed, as John
Exactly.
says.
And actually, all this chat is actually perfect as a nice little segue to answer D's question here, which is how are you guys pulling out the money? So she's referring to trading, and so there's a really cool way that you can do that also to benefit yourself from a tax perspective. Again, consult your CPA. This definitely differs between Canada and US. Very, very different here. But we usually pull it out in the form of some form of cryptocurrency. There, depending on how that's moved between different kinds of crypto wallets, including you can have a corporate crypto wallet for your business. So then that's taxed differently. Okay, so there's a few different ways of doing that. Talk to your CPA, but that's how we do it. We just pull out Bitcoin, sell the Bitcoin to convert it into whatever dollar, and then that would be.
And D, more of these details are coming out in phase 3 and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to encourage anybody and everybody who's listening right now, if this is the first time listening, like go over to prosperitymovement.online. There's a little chat bubble and connect with us. Just drop us a line. We'd love to chat with you. We are coming to the end of the year. And we are literally having a meeting today about something special that we're going to be doing over the last few days before January 1st hits. And if you want to be front line to that, to get access, I'll go ahead and say that we will be including the lowest tuition that it's ever been, the lowest that it ever will be. We've seen that before in the past. I don't know how many times, actually, I think after this one, the lowest that it'll ever be is going to be more than this, but
Yeah.
Not only that, but we're also looking at the new structure for the program itself to have different options available, which means limitations on time. Right now, everything is still at a point where, as large as we are, which is still pretty small, we have enough time to be able to distribute. But in 2024, as we look to continue to grow, it's going to put a direct limitation on how much time we can spend with individuals, right? So it's the cheapest that it is now,
I mean,
but it's
us, but we're going to be
unlimited for you
coaching.
as well, right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't joined in now, it's like still the most advantageous time to do it because everything is still on the best value for offer.
Yeah.
I actually have the blueprint pulled up. I kind of want to give a little sneak peek to talk about.
Sure, I love to do that. Before you do, Zach, can you give us some numbers on average of how many people are coming in a week right now from the Facebook ads? Which, by the way, in phase 3, you get to learn more about this too. We got roughly a 2,000% return happening on a month-to-month basis. Over with the Facebook ads. Chances are, if you're here right now, you came in through a Facebook ad, but
it's typically about 200 people a week.
200 people a week?
Yeah.
Didn't we get like 140 or oh, okay, yeah.
When the ads are running properly, it's 200 a week.
Okay.
We had some hiccups over the holiday, but
okay. Yeah, so roughly 200 people a week are coming in right now. So, I mean, at the end of the year, 52 weeks at 200 people a week, how big is that list going to be in the year from now?
Very big. I don't know. Let's see. Do the math. Let's see. 252. Over 10,000 more than what we already have, which we're basically at 10,000 now.
Right. So when you hear that there's never been a better time than now, genuinely, literally, now's the time. We have new educators that are rising up, and so access to us is becoming more and more and more limited. But for right now, there are a lot of people that are still getting one-on-one coaching with Zach. And I don't want to spill the beans, but I think that's part of what we have coming down the pipe. So if you want to learn more about that and you want to jump in now, and get in before the new year, definitely jump on at prosperitymovement.online, lock it in, start the conversation. Let's get you going.
Yeah. What's that sneak peek there, Travis?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do that. Pull it up. You can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
So this is a sneak peek of the blueprint if you don't already have it. But we were talking about the taxes, and then the whole point of this session was to talk about risk. Here's just one guy, Libertarian Chief is his name tag, but he says, by the time I'm 67, over $600,000 will be paid into Social Security on my behalf. Okay, that's taken out, and they do it for you, right? The money would have been worth 1.9 million if I had gotten a 5% return, which is below market average. My annual interest would be 95,000. The government promises me $3,000 a month at 67, which is $37,000 a year. So the government's doing you a favor by giving you a position with Social Security. Well, you make 37 grand a year, but if he were able to have kept that, in other words, again, having his entities set up correctly and not having the W-2 income, at least not just the W-2 income, he could have repositioned and made $95,000 a year instead. The risk of going to your job security, to me, is so much higher than going and adventuring out into entrepreneurship, into trading, into building out other skill sets and other streams of income, which are going to actually impact you more if we just look at the tax advantages of it, right? And so the risks that we were talking about, is it more risky to go try and learn something? Is it more risky than to just stay with the supposed job security and long-term savings that most people don't even do?
Let's talk about this 5% return. That's annually, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so a 5% return annual. Here's where it gets fun. Stick with me for just a couple more minutes here. Okay, because we've got another one of James's partners, if you will, a guy that he's been trading with for years and just witnessing great things from him as well. His name is Gary Comey, and you can actually look him up on LinkedIn. What is Blackwell? Blackwell?
Oh wait,
Or I thought that was the broker.
Gary's is Black Wave. Yeah.
I think Gary's is Black Wave. So we actually have a partnership coming up with this guy. You can actually look up his statistics, and this guy is averaging 5 to 6% a month.
Yeah.
A month in long swing trades that our community in 2024 is going to be able to copy paste, earn while you learn. Okay, so
that's very automatic, by the way. It'll copy and paste automatically. You don't have to touch it.
It's basically like a subscription. You will have to follow through with like some of the instructions that are really important in terms of how you're setting it up, but
Correct.
It's hands off. The trading will happen on your behalf, 5 to 6% a month. So that was what that guy was saying, based on 5% a year.
Yeah.
What happens at 5 to 6% a month?
Yeah.
And we have students that are doing that in a week. We have some students that are doing that in a day. I think Dave has been averaging on his accounts 10 on average right now. Now he's also withdrawing at certain points as he's growing, and then he's pulling and he's growing, and then just kind of keeping in, because he's hitting. There's certain ceilings that he's hitting for himself where he's like, but it's fun to watch because he's broke those ceilings over and over and over again. So I think this year is going to be a big year for him.
And we have another fun thing in our phase 1 of our program where I started a new broker account, put $100 in there, what have you, and just to show them going from that to turning it into an actual 6-figure cash flow machine. And I don't have a lot of time to look into that, to trade that. It's like once or twice a week. And we've only been doing it for a month and it's up 10%. And it feels almost effortless because we spend like 15 minutes once or twice a week. That's all I do.
Very efficient.
Efficient.
The whole idea of trading itself is to be efficient.
Yeah.
I think a lot of traders get it wrong, and they think they need to have like this 12, 15 monitors with different charts and spend 5 hours in analysis and then another 2 hours of trading and so on and so forth. And it's like, that's just so far from the most efficient and effective way to trade. It is designed to be efficient. That's what it's supposed to do. 15 minutes here or 30 minutes there. Some days, a couple times a week, maybe an hour and a half. Right? Like it is so much less input of time than anything else that you can go do.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have things already set up and you've already done all the work, then maybe you can sit back and let everyone else do it for you. But that requires input too. It's just what is the most effective and efficient way to go and liberate yourself. And we're not sitting here telling everybody needs to be a millionaire in this process or a billionaire, right? Everyone has different goals. Some people just want to quit their job. Some people want to be able to retire more comfortably. Some people want to be able to make the multi-millions, I suppose. Like everyone has different goals and we have to work with them individually. That's really what kind of sets the prosperity movement apart, is that it's the customization and the support system in that process to actually see this to fruition, right?
So again, now's the time to get locked in. The lowest it's ever been, the lowest it's ever going to be. We have people that have solidified that within this last week. They've actually got in on that. I think we'll talk with them a little bit more about the one-on-one kind of focuses and additions that we're going to add in for them as well. Because there's a couple, I actually just noticed while we were on this call, a couple more signed documents that had just come in.
Yep.
And so anticipating more here, and definitely got to reach out to a couple more individuals that we've already had conversations with to add on to what they have, because we are reaching the end of the year and we are locking this in and making sure that we all make the most of 2024. So again, prosperitymovement.online, go into the chat. If you've already had active conversations with us up to this point and you're hearing this now, go ahead and do that, and let's continue the conversation and get you the absolute best that we're gonna ever get you. All right.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Adios.
Take
Bye for
care.
now.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Cheers.
Christmas.